Here we have one of the extremes of where the police situation is. In Minneapolis, again, an epicenter of change as it relates to this whole law enforcement needing an overhaul. They have decided to go far left, which I do not believe is a solution to the problems with law enforcement. And let's take a look at exactly why that is not a solution.
Kelsey, right now, the victim is trying to piece together why his neighbor hasn't been arrested for shooting him. Police say they're trying to do it safely because police consider the neighbor, John Zolchak, armed and dangerous. The chief said what happened to the victim shouldn't have happened.
He tried to kill me. If it worked for a few inches, I would have been dead.
This is the moment Davis Moteri says his neighbor, John Zolchak, shot him while he was trimming a tree. Moteri just got out of the hospital Sunday. He can't go home and recover because Zolchak is still in his home right now.
Essentially, I'm homeless until the cops decide to go and somehow capture John.
Zolchak has been civilly committed in the past. Court documents show Zolchak has an extreme risk protection order. It shows he threatened to kill a neighbor multiple times, made threats to shoot his sister, and slashed an off-duty police officer's tire. The threats and acts of violence date back to 2016. Currently, Zolchak faces second-degree attempted murder, assault, and harassment charges after investigators say he shot Moteri.
In this particular instance, we failed this victim 100% because that should not have happened to him.
Sunday, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara apologized for his officers' response to the situation.
The Minneapolis police somehow did not act urgently enough to prevent that individual from being shot.
Moteri's wife, Caroline, has been
Somehow,
back to their home 2 times with a police escort. She tells us a lieutenant asked her to be patient with the police department.
I said, patience is what has gotten my husband shot. We've been patient for over a year.
Chief O'Hara is letting everyone know they're working on arresting Zolchak.
I'm sure most of the residents there know we have been there 24/7 the last few days. We have been trying to get this person into custody safely.
Chief O'Hara also said they used their behavioral threat assessment team, a psychiatrist, and talked to Zolchak's family. He says that hasn't worked. He mentioned they're running out of options before they have to escalate them. He believes it will ultimately.
okay. So, all right. Guy shoots a guy. Okay. Looks like he's trimming a log on his property. And he's shot by his neighbor. And Minneapolis PD decides that they want to take a few days to make sure that they don't escalate the situation and arrest the guy. Okay. This is not funny. And then he apologizes, saying that his officers didn't respond in this particular instance adequately to the situation. Well, as a person who spends time in Minneapolis, I can assure you that it is not that particular instance. They've gone from one extreme to the next. From we'll pull you over, we'll tow your vehicle for so much as a plate light out, to you can fire off a shot at your neighbor, penetrate his sternum, and we'll take a couple of days to come and get you. So I ask you, folks, is this the solution to the problems that we are currently having with law enforcement? That's my question. I say no, this is not the solution. And believe it or not, they're talking about defund the police. In an environment like this, if you were to defund the police any more than they already have been, what might you think the outcome is going to be? Really? Now, since then, this guy was arrested and he's now facing charges. In fact, I think this very night that this was released, they decided, we've taken enough of a hit as far as our public persona. We got to go in and get this guy. And so they did. They were talking about pumping gas in the house and all of this. Apparently, the guy was a hoarder, and they were worried about like if he had explosives and a survivalist slash hoarder. So they were worried about if he had explosives and things like that in his house. So they say, right? Go figure. For the common man and woman out there, again, we are in challenging times for sure. I don't think it's all dark, destitute, and misery. I do believe, though, that we can't depend on police or law enforcement to look out for our best interests. When tragedy strikes, we do need institutions that are in place to enforce laws and deal with irregulars that are in society, especially to this extent. Now, I can guarantee that these people, his neighbor and him, have had run-ins before. In a situation like that, the guy definitely looked odd just off getting the visual from him on camera, how he was operating in his lawn. He definitely looked odd, and you never know what people are going to do. So prepare yourselves. In a situation like this guy to me is looking a little bit sensitive, like, oh, what do I do? I'm just homeless until the police decide to act. He's heavily dependent on government. He's heavily dependent on law enforcement. It's not to be disrespectful to his situation. It's just to state the obvious fact. I don't believe that we should be that dependent on government and law enforcement to help our situations. Had he been armed, he was well within his right to light up that guy's whole house until he can hit his target. Problem solved, right? Um, so let's be more self-reliant. We got to get our self-reliance up. We got to build ourselves to the point where we're not dependent on government to enforce and secure our rights. If they can and they're willing to do it honorably and capably and competently, great. Right? Save us the hassle. If they're not able to, then we need to at some point position ourselves to where we can. And if you, like I, are not able to do that this day, then at the very least, we need to spend our days preparing to be able to one day be in that situation. I say it's time for a renaissance, folks. I say it's time for a change. I say it's time things work like they're supposed to. And I say it's time we demand that they do. And if that is meant to be, it is up to you and me.